thought this was a taller pagoda, but what I did was confuse it with that one over there, which I'd seen coming in. No entry here, so apparently I have to go somewhere else to get access to this Iwakuni Shrine. Old fire hydrant design. We're right there coming in from the left side at the Itsukushima Shrine. This area to my right being cordoned off for some special event related to that event we saw a moment ago. Now, no doubt there's about to be a ceremony of some sort. That's the first time I've seen an animal, fanciful or not, with multiple tails, and I wonder what the theory behind that one is. This may be a No theater, N-O-H theater, where a very specific cultural kind of performance is given. That's the backdrop, if you will, of the theater. Oh. There's a shrine all but ignored by everyone. What's interesting about it is it's composed of 3 buildings, small, one in the center, the smallest, having one long cord across the top. And I think that those little white things are either for pulling or they represent those little votive papers, but it doesn't look like that. This, I think, is an old post office box. It's an impressive old building with artifacts inside. Mailbox. And the pagoda that we're looking at was built in 1407. That's just 4 years after what would be called the beginning, some call that event of Ghiberti and Brunelleschi, the beginning of the Ghiberti won the contest against Brunelleschi to create the second set of brass doors for the baptistry in size of that plank right there. It must be 5 to 6 feet in width. It's a big tree. So this building was built in 1587 by Toyotomi Hideyoshi for chanting the Buddhist sutras every month to console the souls of the war dead. It's interesting, some of the shrines yesterday and the main ones were for the purpose of honoring or consoling. They were actually like consoling and almost a direct communication with the souls of the children or the students or the citizens who had died as a result of the nuclear weapon, atomic weapon, Renaissance. And because Hideyoshi died before the building was completed, it has no front entry gate and no ceilings and that sort of thing. But what we do see is a tremendous open space. Imagine that such an open space would have been used for large ritual performances. And now we'll look at some of the artwork here. Notice these are all painted on wood. Now, how old these are, what period, blah, 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 I have no clue. And this looks like it ought to be a light. I don't think it is and never was. What it is, I don't know. Here the graphic appears to be an old piece of a tree and the sun. Here a large spoon with engraving on the spoon part, and it appears to be the torii, so maybe it's the torii out in the water there. Would make sense of each era. This seems to depict a lord on his horse, but either being attacked by two on the ground, certainly the one in the front, or one of them is his retainer, but I think the former would be the case. Here I think it's important to take a moment, look at the size of these beams. It's a rough kind of construction, but certainly a robust one. This seems to portray either a tea ceremony or a small banquet with perhaps a geisha playing that traditional stringed instrument. Memorializing the deer on this island, perhaps. What the symbolism is of these large spoons or paddles, I don't know. Samurai with that, I assume it's a samurai, with that long sword that's carried over the back. And this a lord, perhaps, surrounded by some of his ladies or consorts. Unless those are just men. And here a study in horses. This is quite simply just curious. Here perhaps a daimyo or daimyo reading. From pictures like this, were we wise, we could develop the details of clothing. Splashing through water? No. Two men trying to control a horse. Some models of probably a small fishing boat. I assume it's a model. It certainly looks like something you could run about in, and maybe you do. Maybe it was well covered, functioned almost like a kayak. No, not really. And here another one. Boats have to be important to this island. This is interesting because it looks like a collage of images. There a bell, a religious bell, two swords suggesting a samurai. And there, is that a face? Right there. And here we see stacks of all sizes of paddles. Could they be functioning like the fan used to be, something that you would write on, but in this instance to memorialize something like a prayer in this to a past soul? Does these take the place of those slats that we saw in the more formal, very new-looking stone cemeteries in Tokyo? This looks like a samurai or two. Connected with the horse, I'm not sure, though. It looks like the one on top may be riding the horse. The other one not so. They do seem to have their battle gear on, and they're underneath a bridge abutment. The horse looks somewhat terrified. This is very dark and hard to make out. It looks like it's a samurai in front, facing on the upper left-hand corner, facing to the left. His sword's in place, but of course we see 2 feet and an image above suggesting another person, whether it's a man or a woman or the samurai's retainer, I don't know. This one also is difficult to make out. Certainly a warrior on the right-hand side in a very dramatic pose, but with his arms raised up and his shoulders hunched way up and back, but with powerful legs. And the man or woman or whatever to his left, below him, lying down, is that a defeated person? Almost in a state of not repose, but he's been knocked down at least. Again, a very curious image, difficult to decipher. Almost looks like a burro's head at the front, but what should be the head of the horse is a curious face or skull that looks more like a mouse embryo or a salamander or something. Okay, this person had something to say. Maybe a kabuki or a kazura mask. This is an imagery of the board game, but the position of those white and red circles at the bottom indicate a particular point of this. A turtle shell. One of those birds I've been looking at that looks like a black heron. Here we have a man with a firm grip on a lion that he's straddling, and either with a rock in his hand or with his fist he intends to defeat that lion. Look at this beautiful garden for this home. Let's take a look.